The Trap Set will always be available for free, but we rely on donations from our listeners. Please visit our website at thetrapset.net and click Donate. Subscribe to our show on iTunes, and if you enjoy what you hear, give us a review.
This is Joe Wong. Welcome to The Trap Set, where each week we explore the lives of drummers. I want to play something for you.
You could always count on your friends to get you high. That's right.
You're hearing Plastic Cup by Low, featuring my guest, Mimi Parker, on drums and vocals. Formed in 1993 in Duluth, Minnesota, Low's succinct and evocative songwriting quickly won them a devoted fan base. Over the course of 11 albums, the band has proven incredibly durable and influential.
Give it up.
Mimi employs a deliberately limited sonic palette, sometimes just a single drum and cymbal, to create sprawling rhythmic landscapes. Her spacious groove and expertise in shading and nuance provide the band with a foundation of profound heaviness.
It up 1,000 years from now.
Parallel to their careers as musicians, Mimi and her husband, Low guitarist and singer Ellen Sparhawk, are the parents of 2 children who accompany them on tour. I spoke to Mimi in downtown Los Angeles before a recent show.
And more. This must be the cup the king held every night.
And now my conversation with Mimi Parker.
And I think my earliest memory, it's really kind of a crazy, tragic one, but it was so extreme. I had this cat named Tiger, and she had kittens. And I remember going out there one morning, and Tiger had eaten all of her kittens, and there were just legs and tails left. And I know I was only about 2.5. And that was it. And I think that scarred my... No.
Yeah, did it?
I don't know. I don't know. We lived on a farm. I have so many crazy animal stories that I don't know which one is the worst. But maybe
they're all bad?
Well, they're all... Sure, they're not all bad. But when you live on a farm and you're around animals, the majority of them end in tragedy. Honestly.
I think even when you don't live on a farm,
right.
If you have pets.
If you have pets, yeah.
Where was your farm?
Northern Minnesota.
Did you have dreams of, like hypothetical careers that you wanted to do when you grew up?
When I was younger, I think I had the typical dreams, like I'm going to be a marine biologist, because I wanted to play with dolphins.
That's a popular one. Yes,
I know. I think it really is. I have no idea. I mean, I lived so far away from any marine life.
Did you see the movie Flipper or something like that?
I don't know. It's just the fascination with those behemoth animals, that maybe you could see or touch or something. I have no idea. But that was, so that was when you're, when you're really little, what do you want to grow up? And then, of course, it was like an anthropologist or something, archaeologist. Those are I think those are typical little kid jobs.
Were drums your first instrument?
Yeah. But I did a lot of singing before that. My mom was an aspiring country artist. She taught herself how to play piano, guitar, and accordion. And so she was singing a lot, and then the older sister right ahead of me, she was the one that was going to be the star. She played guitar and sang for talent shows and this and that. And eventually I just started to sing with her. She would always do the lead and I would do the harmony. And so I guess my first interest was singing. And then in 5th grade, we could join the band. And I don't know, for some reason I thought percussion, could bang on stuff. Didn't have to learn how to read music, technically. So.
Did you have an aversion to the technical side of music, like learning to read music?
I don't think I had an aversion. I guess maybe because my mom taught herself.
Right.
And she played strictly by ear. I don't think she could, she would write the chords out, like D, G, F, but she never read the notes. So maybe it was just that it was never my experience.
Drumming and singing are the two components of music that have the most immediate kind of entry point. Like you can go hit a drum and it will make a sound. You can sing and it'll make a sound. Mm-hmm. Whereas if you learn a brass instrument or a woodwind, you have to learn the proper embouchure before you can even get a sound going.
Exactly. Yeah, you hit a drum, it's going to sound the same as when you're 10, as when you're 40. You hit that one beat, boom, it makes an impact.
Was there some sort of crystallizing moment when you really connected with drumming and it kind of became part of you?
I don't know. I mean, it was a lot of fun, I remember. And in the band we would play, it was one small band, So we were the marching band, we were the football band, we were the concert band, So we kind of did everything. I really liked the social aspect of it too, because there were 3 or 4 of us back there. We were kind of a team. But I don't know. I guess I really enjoyed it back then. It was just fun.
When did you start playing in non-school bands?
Not until I started playing in Low.
Okay. Mm-hmm. How old were you when you started playing in Low?
24, 25.
All right. So for that window of 13 years in between, like when you joined the school band and when you started playing in Low, what were your ambitions as a person? Like, what did you want to do?
I was kind of lost after after the fantasy of being a marine biologist kind of faded away. I didn't really know. I don't know if that's typical of youngest kids. They're kind of, I was kind of floating, and I went to school not knowing what I was going to do, what I was going to major in. So I would definitely say I was lost.
Where did you go to school?
I went at UMD in Duluth, actually. U of M, Minnesota, Duluth.
And did you study marine biology at first?
I don't think they offered marine biology. At that point, I think I decided biology, science was not my forte. So I just started taking general classes. And honestly, I graduated with a history major, which is one of those things that what are you going to do with that? I guess you could teach.
I mean, is there anything from that experience that still informs the way that you kind of conduct yourself on a day-to-day level?
The college experience?
Yeah.
Not really. I was kind of, and, I'm kind of an introvert, and I made a couple friends, but honestly, I wasn't the social butterfly by any stretch of the imagination. So, not really, no. I enjoyed going to school. I enjoyed my teachers and my classes, and yeah, pretty normal.
How did you meet Alan?
I met Alan when I was in 4th grade. We have known each other a long, long time. He moved up to Clearbrook, which is the town I grew up in 4th grade. In our very small class of 30 kids, Alan moved in and with his Star Wars shirt, thinking he was pretty cool because it took a long time for movies to get up to northern Minnesota. It had probably been out for 6-7 months before Star Wars came to Minnesota. So
wow.
Yeah.
What do you think were some of the benefits of being a little bit behind the bigger cities?
Behind the times. I think we were forced to seek out music. And I mean, on the radio stations, you got all the top 40 stuff, but none of the different interesting music played on the radio up there. So we kind of had to search for it, which kind of
it sparks like more of a searching.
It does.
Personality.
Yeah.
Well, I grew up in Milwaukee, and even there I felt like I had to kind of seek things out.
Yeah.
And when bands came to town, it was a big deal.
Yeah.
When I compare notes with people that grew up in New York or in Los Angeles, everything is available to you.
Yeah.
But I actually think it's kind of cool. I think it was part of the adventure to go to the one indie record store that had stuff that I was interested in, and kind of it forced me to get outside of my bubble.
Yeah, exactly. There were in our small town there was a city hall, and during the summer every weekend they would have a band come in and play, and sometimes they did originals. There was the V's, which was Bobby V's kids, had a band, and they would come there quite often. There were a lot of cover bands, but some interesting stuff. And even though I was kind of young, I was 12 or 13, my mom would let me go with my older sisters.
Why do you think you weren't interested in playing in one of those cover bands or putting yourself out there in the same way your sister did?
I think my personality had a lot to do with it. And I didn't know anybody in a band. She was never in a band. She was just playing guitar.
But she was going to be a star.
She was going to be a star.
What is she doing now, by the way?
She's working for an accountant. But she's okay. She likes her job. Kind of shy, I don't want to be necessarily the center of attention unless I'm telling a joke. I like people to laugh at me, but not at me.
Did you ever try stand-up?
No, but I'm fascinated by it.
Now's the time.
I'm really fascinated. Mimi. I know.
If you were to do stand-up, what would you open with?
I don't know. Every once in a while, if I'm, I'll come up with something, but I don't know. I don't know if you know that I'm Mormon.
I do know that.
Okay. So my it might be really, really obscene and nasty, like all the things that Mormons are not supposed to say. But then I'm like, well, that's not going to bode well, with all my Mormon friends. No one would be able to come to my show.
But that makes it a little bit more exciting, right?
It kind of does, doesn't it?
Is there a reasonably sized LDS contingency that attends low shows?
I think a little bit, yeah. There were the Osmonds first.
That's
and then
right.
there might have been us. No.
Yeah, I mean, really, who else is there?
Yeah, really. I think so. I mean, every once in a while we'll have some Mormons come up and, out themselves. And
I met the guys that made the film Napoleon Dynamite. They're Mormon.
Right.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah, that is really funny.
Do you think of funny things that you would put in your act?
Sometimes. I don't put too much thought into it. I mean, I'm not constantly thinking about it.
You were in college and you got a history degree.
Mm-hmm.
What was your next step? Like, what did you think you were going to do with your life?
Yeah, not a lot of direction, I got my degree and I was actually just working in a department store. Just not really sure.
In Duluth?
In Duluth, yeah.
Did you ever want to leave Duluth?
Yeah, a little bit. It was, it's it was a small city, but honestly, when coming up to Duluth from Clear Brook, it's a big city. So, I wasn't too anxious. That was a big step. That was a big step for me anyway.
You and Alan met when you were really young,
Yeah.
but how did your relationship evolve?
Well, when you have such a small group of kids, everybody knows everybody, 30 kids in your class. So we were friends, and we did kind of bond on the music. Alan kind of was into some alternative type music. He was probably a little more aggressive at seeking stuff out than I was. So we just became friends, and then we actually started dating when we were kind of the end of our junior year, and then kind of more serious senior.
So you've been together ever since?
We've been together ever since.
Since you were 15, 16?
Yeah. Yeah, that's really weird.
Is it weird?
I think to everybody else it is. I mean, it's kind of normal, I guess, for us, but...
What's the hardest part about sustaining a relationship for that long?
I think any relationship has challenges, and for that amount of time, you really have to be committed. I've had some friends that have asked, younger friends that are getting married, and they'll ask me, what's some advice that you'd give?
What's your secret?
Yeah, what's your secret? And honestly, I tell them, well, you're going to have bad times. You're going to have maybe bad years, but you just have to commit to it, because it is a roller coaster. It's up and down, up and down. And if you can hang on in the down parts, it's gonna right itself eventually. Are
there any strategies for kind of getting out of the way and letting it right itself?
Well, the typical, you have to be forgiving, and you have to be nice,
You do?
That's what I've learned. You have to be forgiving, you have to be nice.
It's a bummer.
I know.
How did you guys start the band?
Alan had been in bands. He'd been in multiple bands. And the one he was in currently was, I don't know, they were kind of on the edge of, disbanding and this and that. And we'd been talking about being in a band, because we would sing and do some things every once in a while. But he just kind of took it upon himself to go to, he had a job at the local arena, where they put on concerts, and the Duluth Symphony would play. So he took it upon himself to just kind of go look through their scraps and stuff that they had laying around, and he found a drum, he found a cymbal, some stands, and brought them home and said, hey, I think we should start a band, and I have some drums for you. And I've been talking to this kid who's a senior in high school in Wisconsin, and he'll play bass.
Seems convenient.
Yeah. It's like, wow, you've been thinking about this a while.
Do you remember the first time you played together?
I guess kind of. I remember, memories are really weird. I remember kind of the feeling of it. I think it was in my we were living with my sister at the time, and it was in her basement, I think. And I think Alan had written a couple songs. The song, I remember, one of the first songs was The Sea. Just very simple, simplistic. And it was sweet, and it was nice, and I don't know, it kind of worked. It kind of clicked.
Is a long, long way from me.
I have no idea if this is going to go anywhere, but this kind of works right now. The thing that we're doing, I like it. So let's see what happens. It was a big old let's see what happens. We didn't have a lot of aspirations. When is your first show? I don't know. We've got 2 songs, so let's write a few more songs. I think literally we had maybe 5 or 6 songs, and somebody said, "Hey, you should demo your songs." I think we'd done that even before we had a show.
Right.
Yeah.
And then as the band went along, you did in fact put out records and you did tour. Was there a point at which you felt more ambitious about it or felt like it became more central to your identity? Or did you always kind of maintain that let's see what happens attitude?
Well, as we started to put out records, you record your first record and it's amazing. It's like, wow, we have these songs. We recorded them and we have this. And then both Alan and I we almost had a moment like, now what? Do we have more songs? Do we have more songs? Can we write more songs? Because it was so new to us that we really didn't know if we could do it. Is this just a fluke? Is this just some, it's like they say that everybody could write one book. You could write your first book.
Right.
It's about your life, whatever. And we were like, is it going to be that? Does everybody have one record in them? But we just kind of just continued on the way we were doing it, just kept writing, and we had 2, 3, 4, and then it did. Then it became, this is what we do. This is what we're doing. We never knew, and we never thought that it would last as long as it did. And honestly, today music industry is really kind of crazy. You just still don't know. It's one of those, you're so dependent on other people.
You mentioned that idea that everybody has one good book in them or one good album.
Yeah, maybe.
Have you revised your opinion on that? Do you think that it's a matter of really just putting in the work? Or do you think that you guys and the bands that continue have something special that isn't attainable to everybody?
A lot of it is just putting in the time, putting in the work. You have to have the motivation to do it, And I think as much as artists don't always like to think that, they're doing it for others or doing it to get that affirmation back. I think a lot of it is, a lot of it is.
Uh-huh.
We could have done songs in our basement for ourselves forever. And some people do, and they're happy with that.
Probably fewer than
are happy.
You would think. Right?
But right. They're not, sure, if they had the chance. But so I think you do it to put it out there, thinking that maybe you have something to say. I don't know, maybe, or what you.
Yeah, maybe it's more selfish to make art in a vacuum.
It might be. It might be.
It's like either selfish or ego-driven. You choose.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And those two are probably not that far from each other.
Yeah, they're definitely not mutually exclusive.
Yeah, they're not mutually exclusive at all. Yeah.
You converted to Mormonism, right?
Yeah. How
did that happen?
Well, Alan and I had been dating for a few years, and I guess it was just kind of slow. It's kind of a slow process, I just kind of talked to some, Mormons have missionaries that are out and about. I don't know, you might see them here and there.
With the ties.
The boys have the ties, the girls have the dresses. They all have the name badges. You can spot them by their name badges. So Alan just thought that, well, maybe you'd like to talk to some missionaries, So he invited them over and this and that, and I don't know. It was a slow process, but a lot of it kind of made sense to me. I'm kind of logical. I was looking at it logically, which maybe is not the right way to convert to a religion.
But it made sense to you from a logical perspective?
Kind of did, yeah. There were some things that really made sense. Because I grew up going to church with my grandparents. My dad was one of those guys who would go to church Christmas and Easter. Otherwise I would go with my grandparents every once in a while. So it was kind of not a very religious family, but a little bit.
What was your notion of spirituality as a child?
That's a good question. I didn't really have a strong opinion because my parents didn't talk about it.
Do you think you believed in God?
I think I did. Vaguely.
Right.
Maybe I was hopeful. That, hey, I hope that somebody is steering this ship, because it seems like we're lost at sea. Maybe.
And now, what do you believe now?
I believe in God. I'm not a black and white type person. I'm not very, keep hitting this thing. I live in kind of a gray zone, for a few different reasons, I suppose. So it's hard for me to really kind of commit full on and yes, be a missionary. It would be really hard for me to be that person. So at this point in my life, I still feel that we're really kind of lost at sea. And I feel like, I guess I do believe that God is there and wanting us to be better people. Even if it's all just hooey, ultimately the lesson and the message that I get is that God wants us to be good people. He wants us to be kind to each other. He wants us to take care of each other and to love each other. And that message is good enough for me right now.
Right.
Because...
Nor is it unique to any particular religion, right?
It's not. I mean, there definitely are some unique Mormon things that we could get into that. But in general, I mean, that's the message that we receive on a regular basis.
What are the principles that you draw from in Mormonism that you like to bestow upon your children that weren't necessarily given to you as a child?
I guess the idea that they can be a positive... I guess I shouldn't say it, because my mom always told me, oh, you can do this and you can do that. But I guess I want them to be kind, happy people and productive people. And I think the church kind of encourages that.
This episode of The Trap Set is brought to you in part by Colectivo Coffee, handmade coffee since 1993. Check them out online at colectivo.com.
When we decided to have kids, we didn't think about it that much that it was going to change anything. We just assumed that they would now just be coming with us and that we would just make it work.
And that's what happened?
And that's what happened, yeah.
How old are your kids?
17 and 13.
How did parenthood change your life?
Well, I mean, it changes your focus from yourself to somebody else, whereas you tend to maybe be more in your own head and more selfish, I guess, for lack of a better word. And then, when you have kids, you realize, well, I guess their needs are obvious and more desperate than mine. So you just kind of change accordingly.
Do you think that getting out of your own head and focusing on someone else had any sort of effect on the art that you make?
Yeah, Yeah, maybe. Maybe changed what I sang about. Not that I ever had a lot of lyrics. I didn't tell big stories in the first place, but I think it's pretty subtle if it did. It had more to do, the change had more to do with just the everyday life, the touring and, that type of stuff.
Do you ever get sick of touring?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, touring it can be tedious, It's a lot of... at this point, we're still just doing it ourselves.
What do you mean doing it yourselves? Like you don't have any crew with you?
We have a sound engineer, and that's it. So we basically tour manage ourselves, get us to where we need to go. Now, I should say, just in the U.S., actually. In Europe, we do have a tour manager that drives us around here and there. But in the U.S., which is kind of it seems like it's getting harder and harder to tour over here. I'm not sure money-wise and, that type of stuff.
So you mentioned that if you had to walk away, it wouldn't really be devastating at this point.
Well, don't get me wrong. I would be sad, and I would really miss it. But I think I would probably... I'd
go get a master's in marine biology?
Maybe. Or maybe more anthropology at this point.
I like it.
Yeah.
Do you find that you make goals for yourself creatively?
Somewhat. I'm really bad at goal making and goal keeping. Okay.
So if that's the case, then how have you accomplished all this stuff? Like, how have you written so many songs and done it all? Like, what do you do to push yourself forward?
I don't know. It just doesn't seem like it's that much work, And I just have incorporated it into my life. So, and it's kind of what I do at this point. So I don't really think of it as, don't get me wrong. I do need to focus. I do need to kind of, it's like, oh, you need to practice today, because I'm not really good at that. When we're preparing for things, we're really good at it. We do it. But when we're not, when we have time off, I'm kind of bad at practicing, and as Alan would attest to. But
what does that mean to be bad? The results are
maybe
you're
I'm lazy.
A good musician.
Maybe I'm lazy. I'm lazy. Let's just put it that way. Well, but you can always be better.
If you practiced like 15 hours a day, do you think you would be a better musician or better at conveying what you want to convey?
Better at playing these very minimal drum parts. Sure.
Well, yeah. Maybe you wouldn't be playing minimal drum parts.
Maybe I
you'd
wouldn't
be playing
be.
Like crazy fusion beats, and it wouldn't work for the band.
So there you go.
So I think
I'm
you're
gonna
justified.
Use that. I'm going to use that justification that you just put forth.
No, do you think there's anything to that? It's just basically like, I think what you have done is you've created a style that's an extension of who you are as a person.
Yeah.
So why put more artifice in between that?
Right. Yeah, that's perfect.
Okay, take that, Alan.
Yeah. There you go.
Okay.
No, yeah, I like that.
Well, given that you're not a goal-oriented person by nature, what are your hopes for yourself and your family and the band? Like, where do you hope you'll be in another 10 years from now?
I hope... That's really good. Yeah, that's a good question. I hope that we will be able to still support ourselves with music in some aspect. We've talked about maybe not touring as much, which we don't, but honestly, touring is kind of the bread and butter, I think, for all bands these days.
Yeah.
And if so, I don't know, we've talked about doing more like soundtrack things like that.
That's what I do, but
yeah,
I'm itching to go out on tour again.
Oh, see, isn't that the way it goes?
Yeah.
So that's kind of what you do. Yeah, Alan would love that. We only have a few more years with the kids. If you look at it that way, we have 13. We've got a few years with him, but one's going to be a senior, daughters will be senior, and then what are we going to do? Sit and look at each other and.
Well, it seems like you've done lots of the things that people put off until they retire or never do. Like hypothetically, oh, we'll travel when the kids are out of the house.
Right.
But you've been doing that all along.
Yeah, we'll stay at home when the kids are out of the house.
Is that true?
I don't know, maybe.
Okay, so what are your hopes?
I'm hoping, well, I'm always trying to be more self-disciplined, to maybe learn something, learn a language, learn a new skill. I'm intrigued by, woodworking, and I would like to maybe, build furniture or something like that.
Build drums.
There you go. But I'm actually more intrigued by furniture.
Do you have a particular aesthetic when it comes to furniture?
Yeah, kind of. I'm not real modern, but somewhere halfway between like arts and crafts and modern.
What do you think the first furniture project you'll build is?
It might be just something simple because a tree fell down in our yard last summer, so we have all these stumps. And I'm thinking of making just a very simple stump piece of furniture.
Well, if your furniture career goes anything like your musical career, like within 6 months, you're going to be in galleries.
Yeah, there you go.
Mimi Parker, thank you so much for doing this.
Hey, thanks for having me.
The Trap Set is produced by me, Joe Wong, along with Chris Karwowski, who also edits the program. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at The Trap Set, and visit our website, thetrapset.net, to subscribe to our show for free. If you enjoyed what you heard today, please donate to our show. If you can't afford to donate, please tell a friend and give us a good rating on iTunes. Send your feedback and guest requests to thetrapset@gmail.com.